It's me, Sean Capri. Welcome to episode 118 of We the GamerCast. It's the official podcast of WeTheNerdy.com, and it publishes on iTunes and Google Play every single Monday. By the way, it also comes to YouTube.com/WeTheNerdy. Why did I pause there? Thank you for being here, subscribing and listening and rating us on iTunes. If you're watching the video, giving a thumbs up and all of that good stuff. Guys, it is early in the evening. It is pitch black outside because of where I live. It's kind of crazy, kind of weird. I spent the day, and maybe not the whole day, but long enough for it to be a moment notable, cleaning up the dog run. Frozen poop, semi-frozen poop, because it's just hovering around that freezing mark. Good times had at the Capri household. But guys, I'm getting way ahead of myself. If you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet, and we talk about video games and a whole bunch of other stuff, especially this week. If you want to be part of the show, it's easy. Just tweet at me. It's Sean Connery. Just kidding. It's Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. Do I sound weird? I feel a little different. I feel like it's Christmas time. It's December. We have a whole bunch of stuff happening on We the GamerCast this month. I'm feeling like in a giving mood. I've got some game codes for any of you people who like free stuff. At the end of every episode in December, we're going to give away, actually today we're giving away 2 games. Technically it's the same game, but 2 different versions. I somehow landed on 2 codes, for Guacamelee. So if you like Guacamelee, stick around to the end of the episode. I'm gonna read it, or you could fast forward now. You could actually time travel. I haven't, at this moment as I'm saying it, I haven't said the codes yet, but you have the ability to skip ahead if you like. For Guacamelee, there's 2 codes. It's sort of a first come first serve type of deal. You could take it for yourself, redeem it. You could pass it along to a friend if you know somebody who wants to play Guacamelee. So I'm going to keep that up. I haven't really announced which game it was, so I've got a stack of I've got some Xbox games that I could give away. So stay tuned, everybody. We might make something of this. So every episode, we're going to do a little Santa Claus kind of thing here, giving away just as a thank you. Thank you for listening, and thanks to everybody who supports us at patreon.com/makeusbetter, especially our executive producers, like our gold executive producer. You remember him from last week, Sheldon Benedict from Quest for Pixels. I'm also wearing, for some stupid reason, 2 sets of headphones right now, and I think I keep bumping into the microphone. I'm sorry about that. Sheldon Benedict, our gold executive producer, and all of our gentlemen executive producers, Nick Milicia from Today, James Johnson, Dr. Doom, Jesse Armstrong, Glauco, Shaffer, David Ray, Mike Drummie, Brendan Myers, and Aaron Doherty. Doherty. But who, by the way, has a very... I don't think I've seen an actual picture of Aaron, but I think you're very handsome. From the Twitter picture, he's a chef. He's got a good haircut. That's about all I can really see. So, Aaron, got going on, man. Good for you. And thank you for supporting everybody. Thank you so much. You remember last week, Sheldon Benedict from Quest for Pixels on Twitter. I've just really enjoyed that chat, and also the chat that we had after we stopped recording. This is the thing that I try to keep these episodes to about an hour. I try not to ramble on too much for this, and then try to keep the interview, or whatever you want to call it, the chat, about 50 minutes to maybe about. I just don't want to go too long, and it's a shame because I just really had a nice, really a deep conversation actually with Sheldon afterwards. So thank you, Sheldon, for your time last week on the show and off. And that was great. So we just keep moving along. The end of 2017 is here. We are coming up on 2 years, I think. I'm just thinking of this as this happens. Seamus Mullins from Australia, the very first guest, would have been early 2015. I don't even know if I'm doing that math right. And I could clickety-click on my mechanical keyboard, my brand new mechanical keyboard, thanks to the Megadads. Thank you, Adam and John, and Antonio Guillen for allowing them to pass along. There's a long story. Check out the Gaming Gurus for that story. It's my geek out. But I'm loving this stuff, guys. It's just when you have a good quality keyboard and a mouse, it's nice. It's just nice on my hands and my fingertips, and it makes me feel good all over. Where am I even going with any of this stuff? I wanted to, by the way, speaking of December, speaking of Patreon, this is our 6th month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 months on patreon.com/makeisbetter. And there are a handful of you. There's a lot of you supporting us over at patreon.com/makeisbetter. A handful were there from day one, from the very first month. So this is a 6-month celebration. And I want to give a big thank you to Gabe Hills, Ryan Black, TJ, Nintendo Dads, Joel Brooks, Josh Stapleton, Adam Leonard, Nick Milicia, Grouchy Surge, Ryan Turford, Garrett Bland, Antonio Guillen, and Luke Lohr. Guys, many of you have been on the show. Some of you still have yet to. We've got to get you on. But I just wanted to take a quick moment and just recognize that you have made the best decision you could have ever made by supporting us on patreon.com/makeisbetter. It has truly elevated everything that we do, from this show being on YouTube to If We Ran Nintendo being live to a whole bunch of others. Bobby's streaming like every other freaking minute. And I really just wanted to take a moment to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of all of our hearts. It means a lot. It means a lot that you are still with us 6 months later, and I hope you're still with us 6 months from now. And let's just keep celebrating. Let's keep doing this together. Thank you guys so much. I wanted that to be really the focus for today before we jump into my chat with Nick Milicia. Guys, we are in for something else. We're in for a really crazy conversation. And as I say how much I'm loving my nice keyboard and my nice mouse, my mouse isn't clicking. Why isn't my mouse clicking? It worked a second ago. It moves. It's weird, guys. I was going to play some guitar for Bobby, but I think we'll maybe just get right into it. I have to recommend, though, if you haven't already checked out the Gaming Gurus, I am absolutely loving doing that show with Bobby and with Toby. Toby's 7 days into being a dad, so congratulations to Toby. He's, by the way, rocking it. Like, I chat with him, and it's just, like, no big deal. And I'm like, I don't know how that's possible, because sleep is not a thing, and he just defies all logic because he looks like he's 12 years old. So congratulations to Toby. And we did a Game of the Year type of discussion, sort of like a precursor. There's a whole conversation. Check out the Gaming Gurus because it's a great chat. We also had Joseph Moran from Make Us Better and the PlayStation Podcast. We had a big old conversation and one of my favorite episodes. So please, if you guys aren't already subscribed, go over there, check that out. That would be incredible. And also for We the Nerdy, we will be posting Game of the Year stuff in early January, actually. We're going to be voting on stuff in December. We've got a last-minute kind of chance to play all the things that we've got left to play. And I will be hosting a We the Nerdy Game of the Year discussion on this feed. So I'll have everybody who is writing for video games on that. I think it'll actually not everybody. It might be 4 or 5 tops people. And I just have to figure out a way so that I can mute people just in case things get a little crazy, because I want that to be a good discussion. But we will decide on that call. We will decide what is the Game of the Year for WeTheNerdy.com. So that's really cool. I'm looking forward to that. I love just the Game of the Year types of conversations that we get into. Guys, why don't we just do this? Let's get right into it. Today is Nick Milicia from Next Level Games. You've heard me say his name at the top of the show for a long time. It was about time. I saw him on Nintendo Talk with Bobby a while back, and I'm like, who knew? Nick's got stories. Nick can hold his own on a podcast. Had to have him on the show, and he does not disappoint. There is a crazy story in here that just drops my jaw, so stay tuned for that. I'm not even going to give you a warning. I could give you like the little lead up because it comes out of nowhere. You're just going to have to wonder, is it right at the start? Is it near the end? I don't know. It's somewhere in there, but stick around because it's a great chat, and at the end of it all, we're going to give away Guacamole. So why don't we get into it? You can follow Nick at NL Video Games. That's for Next Level Games. Let's do it. Nick Milicia.
And we were in our senior year, they started using better programs that the industry was using and stuff like that. So we would have had to adapt anyway. Mm-hmm. But our senior year, they brought in a professor who claimed at the time that he knew a lot about game design, and me being still somewhat young and dumb, just decided I didn't want to listen to this guy. I knew what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So he came into class one day and he was like, "Hey, you guys need to, focus on this new program called Havoc."
Oh, wow.
He's like, "You guys definitely need to check this out. It's starting to take over."
Mm-hmm.
And he showed us Half-Life 2, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like early trailers of Half-Life 2 because it's before the game came out. And I'm looking at it, and I didn't play PC games. I played console games. So I'm looking at it, and I'm going, "Oh, that's cool." I'm like, I've never heard of this Havoc, though. I'm like, it's all bullshit. It's not important.
And so for people who don't know, Havoc is a physics engine, right?
Havoc is a physics engine.
Yeah.
It's a physics engine that literally, since it came out, every game uses, essentially.
Yeah, Microsoft just bought it, didn't they?
I don't know about that, but I wouldn't be surprised because it's a moneymaker. I mean, almost
like
every game you boot up says Havoc. You know what I mean? But we took a class or two learning Havoc, and I was just like, I didn't put much effort into it. I'm like, this isn't important. Like, it'll never take off. I've never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And had I known, I think I could have been on the ground floor of like mastering a program like that. I would have gotten any job I wanted, but I turned up like this, so I can't complain.
Dude, I remember it's a similar sort of story for me with like Twitter, and I remember I was working at a marketing communications company, and Twitter just sort of like launched, and we were all trying to figure out what the hell is like even Facebook, like. Twitter comes out and you got 140 characters. You don't really have your own wall or any of those other things that you can do. You can't have a collection of pictures. It's just this really simplified thing. And I remember my boss coming and going like, "This is going to be the next big thing." And I'm like, "This is really dumb. Like, I actually don't think Twitter's good at all. What the hell are you talking about?" And yeah, like had I really dove into Twitter back in the day, like kids are making a fortune teaching old people like us what to do with Twitter when it comes to like kind of running a business. Okay, so you're in college, you're in this new program, dissing Havoc and PC games, basically.
Right.
How does this kind of like get you along the path to owning your own business? Like where does that, I guess this is teaching you maybe, or you're gaining from this experience is that you don't really want to sit in front of a computer and code or build games anymore.
Well, I mean, the goal was still there. I was a little delusional in my own skills. Of modeling and animation.
Sure. What were you making? What?
We had to do like just little projects, and we actually made for our senior project. We made a game. It was a very short game, but it was like almost like a point and click, but very like mist style.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything's static, but then eventually there'll be like a video running when you click on something.
Love it.
So I made a couple environments for the game. I think my problem was I didn't understand the whole process of, I could make something look amazing in 3D, but then I realized I didn't understand the thing about poly counts. Like when you go to make games, you have to keep the poly counts low because the game has to render. And I'm thinking like, I don't care if it takes 5 hours to render this image. It looks beautiful.
Right.
So I was a little off the mark on there. But after college, I sent my resume out to a bunch of game companies, didn't really hear anything back. And actually one of them was like, "Hey, your stuff's good, but you need to focus on this." They were giving me some tips, and I'm like, "That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that." So I kind of just like odd jobbed it after that. I kind of I did a few little 3D projects for a small company, and then I kind of just stopped caring about it. I don't know. I realized that I have a lot of cool ideas in my head, but when I went to execute them, like with the animation and stuff, it was just never working properly. So I was like, all right.
Do you think that that's something that people like with that motivation that they want to get into that? Do you think that typically it's a little bit more natural for them, or is that just part of the gig? Is holy crap, I want to do this, but this is way harder. I'm not nearly as good as I want it to be. Like how much do you think people like the Cliff Blazinskis of the world, did he just like pick it up and go? Or is there still that hurdle for a lot of people? Like what does it take, I guess, is my question for people to really break into that? Because it sounds impossible. Like I actually don't understand how games work.
Right. Well, there's a lot of different ways to break into it. And I'll get to one way that would have worked for me, but I'll get to that in a second. I think for that specific question, we're looking at, there's obviously people that just have an aptitude towards it. Someone is just, generally good with numbers. They're good with programming. They're good with computers. They're good with the logic behind it. Their brain is wired to understand, like, because I did take a little bit of programming, like very basic stuff, but it's all probability stuff. It's all like, well, if this happens, then display this. And, when this happens, you need to display this number. But if it doesn't do this, then do this.
Right.
And the issue is that, like, the basic stuff is so easy to follow. But then when you have, like, pages and pages of code, it starts to get crazy. At least to me, it did.
Yeah, that's kind of been my outside looking in understanding of it all, is that it literally is just like tens of thousands of lines of code. And that's kind of where my brain breaks, because I don't know how anybody organizes that, or are you able to compartmentalize it all and look at it in smaller chunks? But like, to me, it just seems like this like endless amount of zeros and ones running in the background somewhere. So who the hell can make sense of it? This is wizardry, to me. Yeah.
No, it's very much like a puzzle, in a way too. Like almost like you ever play P-Cross, the game P-Cross? So like, imagine playing it without the helping guide on. Because like a lot of times you'll play and the easy levels will have helping guides, and then eventually you have to play it and it's like, just do it. You start figuring out, you can be like, okay, well, there's only 5 blocks here. I can know where these go. You start doing that, but then you realize once you get to the end, like, oh crap, I think I made a mistake. And then you go, then you're like, well, I have to go back now and kind of retrace all my steps to make sure that, Now, granted, there is, with this programming stuff, there is, the computer does help you to a degree. It says, like, when you start typing stuff, if it's wrong, it'll be like, hey, look, this ain't gonna fly.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure there's plenty of stuff you have to figure out on your own, especially if there's bugs in the game or something like that. You have to go back and figure out why, something's happening.
Well, even the example you use, I love how usually we rely on metaphor and simile and things like and analogs to go, if you don't understand it, think of it this way. And it's like, that actually reaffirms my first notion that there's no way that I could figure out programming or anything else, because I can't play Picross on the advanced levels, man. I can't even. My brain is not wired like that. I'd like to think that it's sort of like apt towards logic, and maybe if I practice that muscle a little bit, then it'd be there. But I don't know, man. It's just this big old like nebulous of I can't even figure it out. Okay, so we're moving along with we've got some programming background. We want to make games, so obviously the passion is there. And I'm gonna jump back to the origin of that passion in a little bit. But why don't we go into, like, again, where does that kind of like drop off? Did you graduate? Like, did you so you got your degree in this, and then that's kind of when things changed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was gradually happening the whole time I was there. It's just, you see some of your classmates kind of start to like rise above you, and you're like, well, I can't really do that. And you're like, usually in any sort of situation, especially school, and it's not a bad thing, but usually there's certain people that are going to be higher than you. And those people are the ones that are meant to do that thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that, you wasted all your time, because I gained so many skills, teamwork exercises, learning how to work with a team, learning how to manage a project, just learning how to manage life, living at school. You know what I mean? Just because you got to take care of yourself. You got to go to class. You got to make sure you do your homework. You got to make sure you have time for friends or whatever else. It's still a very important thing, in my opinion.
You learn how to learn. That's really the thing. Like, and just the what I took in school, I honestly don't know if I could really grab a section or a chapter from a textbook and go like, I'm going to use this in my professional life now. But it's more about when you're engulfed in that environment, you have to learn how to learn. You kind of have to train your mind in that different sense. And that's why I feel like my university was totally worth it. And I love your message as well, because I know a lot of people are going through school right now, and it's so stressful because there's so much focus on it, and it costs so much money, and it's your entire life. It's kind of just like what comes right after high school, obviously, where high school is your entire world. And, it's one of those perspectives that only comes with age, as I'm growing my gray beard here, where you go, it's not the end of the world. It's not everything. Even though it feels like it is, there's always value from, even if, like, I took calculus 3 times, man, before I passed it. You know, and it feels brutal, but that was one of the examples. That was the takeaway from that class, was like, I didn't know how to study for it. So I had to learn how to study for calculus. I don't use calculus at all, man. I'm in my fundraise. I'm in marketing. But why is calculus in there? And it's so that you kind of round out your skills. So I guess that's a nice kind of pat on the back. I know David Ray and Joseph Moran, a few others are going through school right now, and it sucks, man, when you're going in for those exams. And the whole thing is, I don't know if you had it in your school too, like there's a whole curve to it. Like oftentimes you're graded on a curve, at least I was, which means, you know, for those who don't know, whether you got, like, let's say you get a 90% on an exam, sounds pretty good, sounds like an A or A plus, right? But if everybody gets 90, then the curve actually shifts your grade to an average, so I guess a B or something like that. And so the people who get like 99, that's where the A plus lies. And so it's what you described there, I think, is a real life representation of the curve, where you can see people on that, like at the front end, the 2% people who are really excelling, then they're meant to do that. But you gained some experience out of this that led you down a different path, though.
Yeah, and also another thing you learn how to compromise with what's important, because there's times. Look, I went to, like, my school, I got a Bachelor of Science, but my degree was in the art college because it was mostly, you know, artistic stuff you're doing, video and 3D modeling and music and whatever else. So, you know, we were forced, because we were in the art college, to take a few art classes. And I don't give a crap about art history. I know a lot of people don't give a crap about art history, but we had to take that stuff. And we had to take like 4 or 5 classes to graduate. And you learn, you know, quickly to kind of maneuver your credits a bit, to be like, hey, you know, I'm going to take the history of rock and roll because that's technically in the art college. And I'm going to take it twice because they just changed the number and didn't say anything. So
I love that. It is like university itself is like a game. Like it's a role playing game. You can be like, fill up your skill slots in a certain way, and like, yeah, maybe you probably should focus on some of the stealthy stuff. But I just kind of want to go for the warrior. I'm playing Assassin's Creed right now, so it kind of comes to mind for me. I definitely did the same thing. I took soccer and volleyball as just like totally wide open. Like I had nothing to do with anything really, but it was a couple free courses, and yeah, man, it got me towards the end. But anyways, how do you? Okay, so let me just actually talk about the timeline here. So you're in university in the early 2000s. No plans at this time to open up a video game store. I'm trying to remember Blockbuster. When does Blockbuster go away? It's like you're really not that far away from that. You're within a decade for sure. It's in the early, you know, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was 2004-ish, maybe.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of like creating a little context here, because as Blockbuster, the biggest chain for physical media that there is going away, you're realizing that maybe programming or any of this stuff isn't really kind of like not what you're excelling at. So instead, I'll take on the impossible challenge of buying a business that Blockbuster isn't able to uphold. I don't know if anybody's ever posed this to you, but like that seems insane to me, Nick.
Well, yeah, running your own business, especially a used game store, is pretty insane. So
True.
But believe me, and it's funny because like you understand that, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people see this as a dream job, just like, you know, game development's a dream job. And it can be. It definitely is to a degree. I mean, it turned out to be perfect for me.
Oh, good.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just that it's a lot of work, like anything else. It's a lot of stress, and sometimes it's not a lot of money. So, but yeah, I mean, it's up to you. How about this? I'll propose a question to you.
Oh.
Would you like me to jump directly to how I got to the game store, or would you like me to tell you a story, a final story about the bridge in between?
Oh, I like stories. Give me the story. Yeah? Option B.
All right. Okay, option B. So yeah, flip to page 32.
Okay.
And, so after I said, after I decided that the animation and the modeling wasn't for me, I decided I was going to make one final attempt to get into the game industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way that a lot of people do it, and that's to be a game tester for a company. So now, quick backstory. I've lived in South Jersey all my life, pretty much within 5 minutes of where I grew up.
Right.
It's always the same town or like the town over or whatever else. So I'm always with my parents, my sister, everything like that. I went to college in Philadelphia, which is 20 minutes away, maybe half an hour at most. That was stressful at first, but you get used to it because you're really not that far. And my father also worked in the city. So, I was always near family.
Right.
So I wanted to get into the game industry really bad. So I found out that a company called Gameloft, which is a division of Ubisoft, has a office in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to apply as a game tester. So I put my application in. The next day they called me. They're like, hey, you want to come up for an interview? So my uncle took me up to New York. I went up for the interview. They hired me right on the spot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And at that point, I'm just like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet because I live in New Jersey, which is like South Jersey, which is like an hour and a half away.
Oh,
Actually,
God.
more like 2 hours away.
Yeah.
I was like, well, do I commute? I'm like, no, it's not going to work. I'm like, maybe I'll take the train. I'm like, nah. And my father said, well, hey, my second cousin, so he was an elderly man. He's like 80-ish years old. He was, I only had encounters with him as a child. He would come down to visit my grandmother, they were cousins.
Right.
Like maybe 4 times a year. Very nice people, but they were my father's, second cousin. He lived in Long Island. And they were like, look, he lives alone. He's got like an in-law suite upstairs. He said you can come live with him.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really nervous because I don't really know the guy. You know what I mean? But I know him from a kid. I don't really, as a kid, but I don't really know him as an adult. I know his daughter a little bit more. But so I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I went up to Long Island.
I'm so nervous for you.
I was a wreck. I was really the minute my parents were leaving, it was like, you know what I mean? It's like going to school for the first day. You're like crying your eyes out. You know what I mean? Like because they're leaving and they're not anywhere close. And you're with this essential stranger. I mean, he's technically family, but still a stranger. So, I get all my stuff settled. It's later at night. I go downstairs to talk to him, and I'm like, "Hey, man, he's like, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing all right." He's like, "Oh, you want to take a cab to the train station, so you're not nervous tomorrow?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." I'm like, "It's right down the street." I'm like, "I'll figure it out. Like, I can drive down there."
Oh, bad. Is that a bad decision?
Oh, no, well, don't worry, the twist is coming.
Okay.
So I said, no, I'll be good. I'll drive down. I'll park in the neighborhood. That way I don't have to pay for parking. And then I'll just walk like the extra couple blocks to the train. So he's like, all right, good night. Good luck tomorrow. I'm like, thank you. Good night. So I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. I walk downstairs and I found him dead.
No way, Nick. Holy crap.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
You gotta give me a heads up for this kind of stuff.
I told you, it's a story, man. I had to tell you.
Why did I choose this option?
I can laugh about it now because it's well after the fact, and
that is horrifying.
It is very horrifying. I've never had to experience that, thankfully, since. But it's I found him deceased in his bed. He had gotten up to go to the bathroom apparently, and some sort of organ, I don't know if it was his pancreas or his liver, I guess, swelled too much. Because he was like in his mid-80s. He was old.
Going from laying down to standing, just kind of shifted things, fluids and whatnot, and then.
Yep.
What are the chances?
I know.
That you are there when that happens? You could have, dude. All the decisions that you could have made before that the butterfly effect that could have taken you away from that, You could have been late for your interview. You could have just not like decided to go because it's so freaking far away. You could have moved somewhere else. You could have commuted. All these things. What did you feed? Did you feed him anything?
No.
Okay.
I did not.
How did you? Okay, so, oh my God, this is the craziest thing. This is up there in We the GamerCast history of the craziest shit I've ever heard.
When I asked to be on the show, I was hoping that we would get to this story. Actually,
so that's the other part too that I should probably start doing, is just be like, I'm gonna like not leave it to chance anymore. I'd be like, so you got any stories? Like, have you witnessed anybody die, or have you been in the army and been exploded before, Chris Berto? What's next, man? Holy crap! What do you know he's dead immediately? Like, what did?
Yeah,
what does he look like?
I mean, just laying there, like it was like you could tell, like he was like it was like someone was sitting on the edge of the bed, but then they just fell backwards. So his legs were on the floor, but his back, he's laying on the bed. And dude, it's so.
I mean, I fell asleep drunk like that before, so.
Yeah, and this sounds really like it's like salt to the wound, I guess. But like he had this really cute little dog. It was a really old dog. The dog was blind.
Oh my God.
And it was terrible because I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, and I feel bad because this dog is like running into a wall, like just over and over again. And I'm sitting there like, this poor dog, like someone needs to take care of this dog because I don't know what to do right now. But I called his daughter. I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
I called his daughter and I had to break the news to her, which was also very difficult. But it was kind of weird.
Was he healthy otherwise? Like this had to be a shock. Was it a shock? Was it?
I mean, I don't think so, because when I called her, she was like, I called her and she could. I said like 2 words. I was like, hey, I don't want to tell you this, and then she was like, he's dead, isn't he? And I was like, yeah, like she knew, you know what I mean? And I was just like, yeah, I'm so sorry. And she was like, no, it's, I'm sorry for you. Like I'm coming right over. You know what I mean? So. Apparently, though, I was telling someone this story the other day too. Apparently, when you find a dead body, I guess it's common sense now. You should probably call the police.
I'm waiting for that part of the story.
I didn't know any better because I'm thinking, well, he died in his house and there's no foul play. I'm not gonna. I just called his daughter, and by the time they got there, they're like, "Hey, did you call the police?" I'm like, "No." So we had to deal with all that. But yeah, the cops came. Ambulance came, took him away, and they were just like, "Hey, what happened?" I told them what happened. They're like, "Okay," okay, no problem. And I was like, "Okay." And so it was my first day of work. I was dressed up. I was dressed up.
Are you late? Like what? Like what's?
Well, at this point, I call him work and I say, "Hey, it's funny because it's like most people will be like, oh, they're gonna call and work and be like, yeah, my family member died, like as an excuse,
right?
But like my first day at work, I have to call and be like, hey, my family member died, and they were like, oh, don't worry, yeah, look, I'm right here with them,
yeah, holy cow.
So they were like, oh, it's okay, like you don't have to come in today, you can come in tomorrow, or they were like, if you want to come in later, if not, come in tomorrow, and I was like, okay, no problem. So I'm dressed.
How are you doing with all of this? How are you coping with all of this?
Well, it's obviously a little overwhelming.
Yes.
It's a bizarre situation because I'm not so attached to the person.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Of course.
Because like they're family, but I don't really know the man.
But it's still a dead body.
Well, yes, obviously it's. But
sorry,
at the same time,
get a little away from myself here. Sorry.
At the same time, it's like, I think I would react a lot different if it was like my mother or my father.
Ure.
Yeah. Random third cousin removed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it was still obviously, staggering.
I'd be trembling, man. Holy crap.
Yeah. I have a very good, I guess, I don't know what the word is. I guess aura about myself, like a good, I cope very well with funerals and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like I go to funerals and everyone's losing their shit and I'm just like, like I'm sad, but I'm just like, yeah, like it's life.
That's life. Yeah.
It happens. Like it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I I don't always lose my stuff. But so when I went for the interview, I was dressed up. I had a jacket and tie and everything like that. And, you know, me not knowing any better of how the inner workings of a game company works, my first day I was dressed up in a jacket and tie.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, well, I got to be professional. I'm going to work.
Right.
So I think as a coping mechanism for this situation, I was like, look, I'm just going to go to work. Yeah. I don't want to stay here. Like, I want to go to work. Turns out that was probably a big mistake because I took the train into the city. I get into work and I'm dressed in this jacket and tie and whatever else. And I walk up and they sit me down and everyone's just wearing street clothes. Right. And I feel so out of place. And I'm like, you know, so I just dealt with this, you know, monumental thing in the morning. Yes. And now I feel anxious because I'm, you know, not dressed like everyone else. And they kind of just like threw me to the wolves. They're kind of just like, okay, you're going to do this without really explaining anything. Do you know what I mean? So that was a rough day, obviously.
That's one way to put it.
But so basically what happened was I decided.
Can you say which game it was? Because Gameloft eventually went on to make like mobile games, but I'm assuming that's not the stage that they're at this point.
Yeah, actually, so at that point, it was their mobile division.
Oh, wow, okay. So super early, though, in that.
Oh, yeah, but this was flip phone mobile division.
Exactly, yeah, because iPhone is 2007.
Right.
Right? So, and this is what, 2004, you said? Somewhere around there?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, 2005. So, yeah, holy crap. So we're talking like Snake.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So we're talking Tony Hawk and Splinter Cell on a flip phone.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so Ubisoft, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So, so after a couple of days, I kind of just, you know, I kept going back. I was like, all right. They moved us. They moved all the testers to our own little centralized area. And you know what? Like something clicked in me, Sean. I took control of that place.
Oh, wow.
Like, honestly, like, so the way it worked is there was a bunch of us and we were just, we were hourly, you know, we were kind of part-time hourly. So we got no benefits, but we made hourly wage and then we made overtime. And then there was like 3 or 4 salary game testers who were, they got no overtime, but, you know, obviously they were guaranteed a salary.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Are you still living in the house?
I'm still living in that house.
So what happened to the house? Did you get it? Like who took possession of the house?
Well, I mean, his daughter technically, like, you know.
So were you renting from her? Or she just let you stay?
They just let me stay there. I mean, I was staying in the top half, so it was kind of like separate from.
You didn't want to move into the room?
No, don't think so.
Okay, I'm sorry, Fredo. I just needed to clarify. You still had a place to live. Okay, so that's all. Yeah. That's all well and good. But yeah, wow.
Yeah. But
so you're taking control, even though so testing part time and all that stuff.
Well, you know what it is. You know how any business is, right? There's always people that go to work because it's their job, and at 5 o'clock they punch out and they get the hell out of there. Now I had the drive to make it. So what I did was I was like, hey, you know, well, part of it's obviously money reason too, because I make crazy amounts of money overtime. But, you know, I was like, you know, you need someone to stay? I'll stay. Yeah. I don't care. So for, you know, and, you know, they were giving us stuff to do. And, you know, part of the thing I didn't like about working for other people before this was, you know, they would kind of come to you and say, like, I need you to do this. And I would say, well, I could do that, but I can do it better. And they would go, no, I need you to do it the way I tell you to do it. And it was very frustrating. So, but at this place, you know, I just went to my boss and was like, look, you know, your check sheet for testing games is ridiculous. Like, I'm redoing this. And they were like, okay. And I'm like, good. So I redid their whole way of testing games. So everyone started doing it the way I told them to do it because it was much more streamlined. You got stuff done way faster. And, you know, I was working. So my daily day, I did this for 3 months. And I'll tell you why I did it for 3 months. I was working. I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I would, you know, eat breakfast. I would shower and get dressed. And then I would take a trip down to the train station. Because it was about an hour train ride, 45 minutes to an hour train ride to the city. So I would take the train in to the city. I would get into work at 9. and I wouldn't leave work until 11 at night or midnight. And then I would go home on the train, and then I would go to sleep, and I would wake up and do it all over again.
Holy crap, man.
Yeah. So, and like I felt like I was making, progress, but I burned myself out.
I was waiting for that.
And also
for somebody else too.
Yeah. And you know what it is? You start to, there's plenty of instances where, there's a lot of fake stuff going on. It's all politics. You know what I mean? So you start doing a bunch of stuff. You're working real hard, and they're all buddy with you. You know what I mean? And then you kind of like think, well, it's not just a work environment. Like we're cool. We're friends. And like you start to like, once the project's done, you start to still treat the person like your buddy. And then they kind of just like kick you down. It's like, oh, well, the project's over. Like, you need to go talk to this person instead of even coming to me. And I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
I see how it is. Like, so that was really disheartening. And, but yeah, it was mostly just burning myself out. I mean, but, I learned a lot from doing that. I learned it's probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life, other than, before the game store.
You're sprinting in a marathon, basically.
Right.
That's kind of the way I even just look at work in general, is that we're all going to be doing this for a very, very long time. So it's just a matter of like finding the pace and kind of sticking with that a little bit. But yeah, like, and especially, 2004, 2005, Nick coming right out of school. I think a lot of us are like that too. Like, I want to climb up the ladder as fast as possible. I want to make a giant impact. And then, I think we all kind of reach that point of going, holy crap, retirement is like 30 years away. So we should probably pull back a little bit. But in that, that when you slam into the wall where you're sprinting, and it's like, I'm crash and burn. That's a learning experience no matter what. Like, whether you like it or not, or you're trying for it or not, you have to, when you pick yourself back up, you go, okay, so I'm not going to do that again. And instead I'm going to do something else. And that's kind of the definition of learning experience. So you don't want to do that anymore.
Yep. So basically what happened was I made a lot of money because I worked, what was it, 13 hours a day.
Holy crap. Good for you, though. I'm not surprised. And I'm glad that you kind of got to that part of the story, too, because, there's, like you said, with regards to university and whether or not it's for you or not, like, that's really what it was. It was fit. And it wasn't about work ethic or trying hard enough or any of that kind of stuff. Obviously, the work ethic is there for you. And I know that for a lot of kids in university now, just going there is so freaking hard, and doing it day after day after day and studying is so hard. And whether or not it translates into good grades or success or whatever, that's aside from the point. And it's identifying that work ethic within you. And I'm not surprised that you were just a bull about it, that you're just kind of going hard in school and in this. And then these are the things that you kind of like, you're checking off all the boxes for small business owner. And these are the things that were not in me. I actually started university. My major was small business, which is actually, I think, kind of silly to go to university to start your own business. I didn't really even know I couldn't articulate why I was doing that. I was like, maybe I can get a better loan from the bank, but that's not even true. So I switched to marketing, actually, because I had heard so many stories from all the teachers who were previous small business owners about the 120-hour weeks, and like that doesn't even guarantee success. And I'm like, good God, that is not what I'm in it for. But that somehow attracted you because you had the work ethic. You just you didn't want to answer to anybody else. You have an idea for something and you go for it. And if you put in the time and the hour and the energy to it, then it will be a success, even if Blockbuster's crumbling before your eyes.
Yeah. And you know what it is? It's like, I had some help. So what happened was, I had, obviously I've been playing games my whole life.
Right.
So that's always been the driving force in what I wanted to do, whether it was making games or now selling games. But I really, at that point, after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself at all. But, I was big on the internet forums back in the day, especially, the classic game collecting forums, stuff like that. And, it just so happened that I had two friends on those forums that opened up stores, their own classic game stores in their respective parts of the country. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, I was kind of, subconsciously I learned, yes, I want to work for myself, but I really didn't put that into practice until I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, let me come out and see how it is to do this. You know what I mean? I went out, I took a week and went out to Wisconsin to visit a friend who had a store, and I learned a lot from him. And then a friend in North Jersey opened a store, and I helped him open it. So like,
okay.
all of that was like, building.
Yeah, man.
It was like, the work ethic, but it was also the not knowing what I wanted to do. But it was like, I want to do something with games. I really like games. And it was, I made a decent amount of money working my ass off.
There it is.
All that stuff just kind of just fell into place. And now it's 10 and a half years and I'm still here.
Good for you, man. So Next Level Games, where does the name even come from? And then like, what's the first kind of couple weeks? Are you just like, where does the inventory, like I just imagine you standing with your hands on your hips, maybe you're putting the sign up, and how do you get started?
So what I did was I took all the money that I made from the 3 months in New York.
Holy crap, you did make a lot of money.
And then I also got a family loan. So I was lucky enough to get a family loan instead of having to go through a bank and deal with interest and also the junk.
Did you take some money out of your dad's second cousin's wallet while he was... Take his credit card and don't tell anybody that it exists so it doesn't cancel.
Technically, they didn't charge me to live there, so,
True. Oh, that's true. Yeah, so you're living... Well, bad joke. Okay, so you have a little cash at your disposal here.
Yeah, so what I did was I got really lucky because at the time I was back with my parents. I didn't really have any bills because I lived with my family. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking a year off and I'm just amassing stock for a store. So I spent a whole year watching movies, playing video games, going on eBay, going to conventions, buying stuff. And it was pretty fun for about a year. And then after that, I was like, okay, it's time to do something with this. But actually, the beginning of the store was pretty rough. We first opened, I found a location which I thought was perfect. I kind of emulated it after my friend. I opened near a couple schools. Because he would get a lot of foot traffic from the schools, and the kids would come and spend a lot of money. You know what I mean? So I did the same thing, and I was carrying not only retro games but new games. And 6 months, I was out of that building.
Oh, really?
Lost thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Just from buying. Nobody would come to me to buy new games. They'd all go to GameStop.
Right. Because are you even able to sell them at the same price? Every time I go into one of those stores that has new games, they're always like $5 more, and I'm never really sure why that is. Like maybe you're just not buying the same discounts.
Well, the reason why is because when you go to buy a new game from a distributor, like say it's a $60 game, after shipping, you're spending $55 on that game.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. Right. So you're like, so smaller stores have to build in a little bit more margin in order for make that worthwhile. Okay.
Yeah. But nobody was buying new games from me. Yeah. The kids in the local area just were awful. They were they weren't buying anything. And it was just I think I kind of just I misjudged the location. You know what I mean? Thankfully, I was able to, adapt and switch over to the location I'm in now, and it took off immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like night and day.
Nothing else changed. Same Next Level Games, same prices, same inventory. Everything moved over, and it's just location. Yep.
And for the first 3 years, maybe, it was like really, really great, and then the economy crashed in the U.S.
Nice. Yeah.
And that put me in a bad spot.
Yeah.
There was definitely a couple times I almost closed a couple times.
How many staff do you have? Are you working the till and doing like everything, or like what is this? What does the business look like?
Just me, for 10 years.
Even now?
No. Yeah.
Holy! What are your hours like, man? I can't even understand this.
I'm open 11 to 8. Every day
but you're
Sunday.
there before that. There's books
sometimes,
and So so you're managing the entire stock for the store. Like you're the one going, I'll buy that game, or like, are you ever really turning games away, and like you have to keep in all. I'm imagining it's all in your head. This game is worth this game is worth that, and you just kind of have that encyclopedic knowledge just in that brain of yours.
Yeah, because it helps that like not only have I been playing games for a long time, I've been like a collector since 2000.
Holy cow.
So like even before I opened the store, I had a general idea what games were worth because I was buying all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, now, yeah, honestly, there's no, like, people are like, oh, can you look up on the computer how much you give me for this game? And I go, no, I'll just tell you because I know how much I give you for this game, you know?
Do you have games that are, like, because I think there might even be a Next Level Games here. I feel like there might, I have to remember what the heck that is.
There's one in Washington State. I know that.
It's a great name. But the store that I'm thinking, I can't remember exactly what it's called, and maybe it's just because Next Level is on the top of my mind right now. A couple games that are like $350, and it's like, well, that'll never sell. So like, why? Like, what is your like? How do you price things? Are there games that in your mind are worth like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and whether or not they sell or not, like it doesn't matter? Like, kind of walk me through the pricing of that.
I mean, well, you know, it's like any other business. When you buy something, you got to obviously make a decent margin because that's the only way to pay your bills.
Right. Well, I guess so. If everything is based on what you paid for it, then you're in the ballpark at least.
Yeah, and you know, it's all about. You have to remember that, like, the way the store works is that you have your general just game players, like people just play video games, whether it be old or new, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, people that want Mario and Zelda or Halo or, you know, Crash Bandicoot, anything like that.
Nah.
But you do have people like me that are collectors. So, you know, there's been plenty of times I have games that are $500 a piece that,
like what?
You know, at the time, Earthbound complete box.
That's the game. That's what I was thinking of. Is it's always like way up on the top shelf, and it's been there since I've been going. So
yeah. Now the thing is that the way that I treat prices in the store, well, I have two mantras with the store. One, I always try to provide the best quality product at the most competitive price I can. So, you know, if you compare me to like other stores in the area, they'll put out, you know, dirty games at like 10% over eBay. You know, I'll put out the same game that I spent the time to clean and test for 10% under eBay. Do you know what I mean? Because
how do you do that?
I just do it.
I was not expecting you to go under. I was expecting you to say like you took the time and it's quality, so it's going to cost more, but you managed to actually go the other way. So no wonder you're doing well. Because
the thing is that, you know, when you buy games, it's like anything else. There's going to be stuff that you're going to pay well for, and there's going to be stuff that you're not going to pay well for, because people have to understand that a lot of things that you buy either are going to take a long time to sell or they will never sell.
Right.
I have games in the store that I can flip over and look at an old barcode I put on there that I don't even use those stickers anymore. And it's been there for like 7 years. And people have to understand, like, why did I get a quarter for this game? It's because it's been sitting in my store for 7 years. You know, it's just, it's the nature of the beast. You know what I mean?
And is that a case where you just have to move it? Like, is there like a hoarding thing that happens where you go, I need the space, so I need to get rid of some of these games, even if, like, how long do you carry over the original cost of that game to you? So if you spent $5 on that 7 years ago, do you care if you can only sell it for a quarter now? Or do you go, nope, it was $5, so I need to make at least $5 on it, even if it's a decade later?
Well, you don't, you know, personally, I just write it off in my own mind.
Right.
So I don't assume that I have to make any money on it.
Okay.
However, I find that it's more beneficial to have it sit on that shelf for 7 years than to sell it for a quarter, only based on what I consider, because I'm not a genius at this, you are, but I consider to be marketing. So I want someone to walk into the store and see a full wall of games.
That was going to be my next question, was like, yeah, there's a value in just inventory, that you have everything.
Yeah, just the fact that you can go there and say, like, you know, because if I got rid of all of those, like, yeah, I would only have stuff that would probably sell, but, like, the wall doesn't look as nice without that many games on there.
Totally. Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. Dude, I'm fascinated. We're coming up on about that time, unfortunately. So I guess I'll flip it back. Usually I say, you know, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the year? But why don't we look retrospectively? What's been one of your favorite experiences from 2017? What's kind of, if you were to vote game of the year, even a not game of the year, but like what's been some of your favorite stuff you've been playing this year?
It's so hard because I love JRPGs. They're probably my favorite genre. And I love Persona 5. Like, absolutely adored that game. And then the Switch came out and has dominated my life.
Nice.
So honestly, like I look at Zelda and I look at Mario like everybody else, and I go, I have no idea, like, one, how they can put both of these out in the same year, and two, how they're both, like, you know, within the top 3, I think, of all time.
All you need to do is have a completely failed console generation. You just spend 5 years on a console that's not going to work at all. You don't release the Mario or Zelda game that you were going to put it there. You sit on it for a little bit, let it cook a little longer, and then, like, it's not really that surprising that this year is the year that we're getting from Nintendo, because it wasn't that long. I mean, it's a good thing that gamers have short memories in general. We get all wound up in all the problems and everything, and then like a year later you go, like, we were worried about the Wii U's first party situation, like it was really great, and then it had a bit of a dip, and then there were no games, and we've quickly forgotten that it's, I would say, like, definitely the reason that we got Zelda day one, and then we get Mario to start out the holiday season. This is so you just sabotage a console generation. That's how.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, ever since the Switch launched, I'm sure you know of me from the other conversations that I'm not really a big digital guy. So
I'm so sorry. I just realized how much I talk about digital, and here I'm talking to a guy who like over a game store. Please, everybody, support your local retro. Well, it's different. It's very different in that sense.
It's very different because I don't carry new games anymore. I only do retro games.
And you're like, stop asking for Virtual Console. Just go away with that. But
no, I have 18 Switch games physical.
Nice.
And like, it's not even been a full year.
That's crazy.
And Mario and Zelda were one of them. So it's like, how do you complain about a system like this? You can't, in my opinion.
I agree, and well, that's why it's Time Magazine's Gadget of the Year, which it sounds kind of silly, but when you like Gadget, it sounds like Inspector Gadget's got a little something coming out of his boots or something. Nick, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on the internet, maybe where they can find your store, or whatever you'd like to kind of get out there in the open, man. Let's do this.
Sure. So the store is in Blackwood, New Jersey. So it's just Next Level Video Games. And as far as the internet, you can just NL Video Games on Twitter, which I don't use as often because I feel like I get lost in that sea too much. But if you want to contact me, you can contact me there. So
sweet, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, and also I have to thank you for supporting Patreon.com/MakeIsBetter, man. You've been there since day one.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, day one.
I appreciate all you guys do. So Bobby and you and Toby and I guess Joseph now, but everything's
thanks for not leaving fun when we brought on Joseph. I guess there's that too.
But I thank you for having me. I really had fun, and it's a pleasure to I guess meet you.
Yeah, man.
Directly. So.
Sad that the conversation is over, but I'm glad that production is wrapping up for now, for this week. We're coming back next week, don't worry about it. But I'm glad that I'm about to post this, schedule it, be ready for you on iTunes and Google Play and youtube.com/waythenerdy. And I tell you why I'm glad, because I can go back and play Assassin's Creed Origins, or Oranges. I am digging that game, you guys. I didn't mention at the start. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it on the Xbox Drive with Dave Moore. That's on Thursdays. Maybe I'll talk about it on the Gaming Gurus. Now I can say Xbox stuff when I talk to Bobby. That's kind of strange. By the way, thank you, Nick Milicia from Next Level Games. You're on Twitter at NL Video Games. Give him a follow. Let him know that you enjoyed the show. If you did, offer condolences. Kind of feel bad making light of that situation, but he sort of led the charge. Hopefully it's okay to... I'm just going to drop it. But I was shocked to hear that story and had no idea that's what I was in for today, guys. So that was great. By the way, also, the music, Super Mario World, Super Mario Sleigh Ride. If you need some Christmas cheer, go to ocremix.org. It's Super Mario Sleigh Ride. Doesn't even matter if people have no affinity to Mario. Usually I link up the music with people and what their gaming likes are. No, it's gonna be that song for December. It's Christmas and I love Christmas. That's why we're gonna give away a game right now. 2 codes. Get ready. These are Steam codes. but I think whatever you're running on your computer, you can run it. So give it a try. The first one, Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, 6HIXJCGZPLCF7M as in mother and tube. The second code is for Guacamelee Gold Edition, 2XWIQCFA0M as in mother, ZL5I7. I can't tell if those eyes are ones. I think they're eyes, but you never know. If it doesn't work, try to replace them. Thank you to our artists, Gary Gray and Adam Leonard, our video designer, Antonio Guillen, and of course, this is part of the Dayspace network of podcasts where you can find other shows like NintenTalk and Character Crunch and the Greenie podcast. Please consider supporting us on patreon.com/makeusbetter. We're just going to continue pushing it, guys. Thank you for following me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. The show is at We the GamerCast. That's it. Otherwise, this is episode 118. It's now in your ears and your eyeballs. I'm listening to the audio and Jason just kicked in. Holy crap, that kind of scared me. Threw me off a little bit. I'll be back next week. I hope you're there too. Now it's time for Jason. Jason. Jason.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!